Welcome everyone to Building Materials Marketing Unboxed. This is Season 2, Episode 9. The title of today's show is Content Marketing Strategies for Building Products Manufacturers. And we've got one of the best in the business with us today. Today's guest is Matt Lee. He's the founder and CEO at Lead Generation Experts. He coincidentally is also another alumnus from the Wizard Summit 2021. He did such a great job a few months ago at the Wizard Summit that he was there with Mark Mitchell. He was there with Brian Baker, two people who have also been on this show. I watched his presentation. He had so many great insights. I had to get him on our show. So those of you that are watching live today, we ask that you please interact with us. So if you have any questions, please put that in the chat, whether you're watching it live on LinkedIn or whether you're on Facebook, Twitter, or on YouTube. Please put that in the chat, comment there. You can also let us know where you're tuning in from. If you comment, we'll do our best to answer your question live on the air. And if we're unable to do that, maybe we run out of time or there's some sort of programming issue or something, we want to make sure that we do get back to you. So we'll reach out and get in touch and see if we can get an answer for you. So having said that, we ask that you interact with us because Matt's one of the best. I really enjoyed his presentation. So let's get to know Matt a little bit and bring him onto the show. So Matt lives in El Paso, Texas. He has a wonderful view. It sounds like a great view. I've never been there, but it sounds like he has a great view because he can see Mexico from his backyard. He enjoys hiking with his dog, Leela. And you know what my first question is going to be? Where is the best place to hike if I'm going to El Paso, Texas? So we're going to ask him that. So if you're ever in the area, you know where to hike because he seems like an expert there. So next thing, he is the creator of the innovative Building Materials publication. He's also, as I mentioned, the founder and CEO of Lead Generation Experts. Please welcome to Building Materials Marketing Unboxed, Matt Lee. Hey, Matt, how you doing? Welcome to the show.
Hey, Will, thanks for that introduction. Very excited to be here and to chat with you guys about content marketing strategies for building material companies.
It's great to have you on the show. Like I said, you did such a great job at the Wizard Summit. You probably didn't even know who I was when I was watching and interacting with you, but I knew I had to get you on this show. So first question, not even about content. Where's the best place to hike when you're in El Paso, Texas?
Well, we have the Franklin Mountains, which is kind of the foothills of the Rocky Mountains here that runs from El Paso all the way through Colorado. And so we have some excellent mountains with great views of Texas and Mexico. And yeah, definitely recommend, if you're ever in El Paso, go for a hike. We have some great views, unlike anything else you'll see in Texas.
That sounds awesome. I appreciate the travel advice there now that places are starting to open up again and it's time to get outside and get out and enjoy that beautiful nature. So that's awesome. And what breed is Leela? We got to know. Yeah,
she's a beautiful German short-haired pointer.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Okay, so you're not bringing a Chihuahua up on those mountains. That's good.
No.
Although Chihuahuas, they're pretty, from what I understand, they're pretty aggressive, and they'd probably be able to take care of it just because they're stubborn. We're going to get over that hillside, up that mountain. So, of course, I have 3 dogs of my own, so I could talk dogs all day. But let's talk about where you're really an expert here. Let's talk about content marketing because there's a lot of content that's out there. You jump on LinkedIn and you can just scroll for days. So let me ask you, first question, what do you think marketing teams should do? What should they stop doing in their channel content strategy?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think a lot of times, marketing teams often will kind of sometimes treat content as, it's just something that they need to check off on their to-do list. And instead, I think what we need to do is create more purposeful content. And we need to think about, each content piece that we create where that fits in within the overall digital marketing strategy. And, for instance, what's going to be your delivery mechanism to get content in front of people. And I think a lot of people forget to do that. So for instance, if you want to bring more search traffic to the site, well, you know that you're going to need to focus on more SEO or keyword focused content to get active searchers to the site. Whereas, if you want to bring more social traffic to your website. Then we need to focus on getting content, more what we call attraction style content. We'll talk about that later, through social. And if you want to capture, make the most of your email list, you're obviously going to need to create more email content. So I think we just need to be more purposeful with that. And I see that sometimes is kind of lacking when we just say, hey, this is just something we need to create 3 articles a month, and now we got it checked off our list. Another thing that I think that we could do better at is just making sure that we're getting the most out of our content. So a lot of times marketing teams will publish content and then they kind of forget about it. And, we can do a lot of things like, repurpose that content. We can turn, videos into blog articles. We can turn blog posts into podcasts. We can also break up infographics to make them bite-sized shareables on social. And so we really need to think about, not just publishing something and forgetting about it, but see what else we can do with that content piece. And the kind of like the last thing that I can think of is we need to stop the whole publish and pray approach. And what that is basically publishing a piece of content, praying that, people are going to come and read it. Instead, we need to kind of more focus on actively promoting that content to get more eyeballs and more traffic in front of it, and, to that content piece.
I love all of those things. I do want to go back to one thing that you said. So I hear when you say attraction content, sure, what I hear is, and maybe I'm wrong, but what I hear is clickbait. How do we avoid something like that?
Yeah, my definition of attraction content is more of content that is something that provides value to your readers. It gives them a reason. It attracts them to the site because it gives them a reason to come to the site. It provides them some type of utility, right? So, I've seen companies where they'll create things on, summer barbecue recipe tips, for the summer. I've seen people actually publish that instead of maybe creating something related to helping their customers grow their business. They're going to be more interested in those kind of items. So not necessarily clickbait items, but more things that provide value to your customers, and typically you get this in front of them through social or email marketing.
So it sounds to me like it's one of those things that it ties back to what you were saying in your very first answer. It ties back to that content strategy, not just checking off the list, just, hey, we got it done, we published, yay, we published 3 articles this month, but really being strategic with your content, correct?
Correct.
Nice. Very good. Okay, so let's talk a little bit. So I mentioned clickbait, which I'm sure, hopefully that doesn't kill our SEO or anything.
Right.
But let's go back to that just for a second. What do you view as the wrong kind of content that many manufacturers are just basically wasting their time and their writing resources on?
Yeah, I see a lot of more what I would call kind of branded content that isn't really, doesn't really provide value to customers, but instead it's really designed to like please the CEO or some of the executives in the company, right? So a lot of marketing teams are trying to do that. So they're trying to think, what would the CEO like to see on the site instead of like, what would my customers like to see on the site? And I think those are the wrong types of content pieces. And again, it kind of plays into the last question is like, a lot of times we're not really thinking through what is the strategy of this content. We're more so thinking like we need to publish content because that's what we're told. And no one ever tells us like what type of content to publish. So we're thinking, as long as we're publishing content on the site, we're good. And, we need to have a strategy for each of those content pieces.
So one of the things that, what's your view? I don't know, give us your hot take on the place of PPC in building materials marketing. Speaking of strategy, where does PPC fall into that?
Yeah, I really like pay-per-click advertising, whether it's through search ads or through social advertising, but I like it better as a form of direct marketing, where you're basically tracking the metrics on every aspect of that campaign, from impressions to clicks, and not just that, but you're actually tracking sales inquiries and actual customers generated from those campaigns, and you can actually establish some type of ROI from those campaigns. I prefer that over branded based marketing or awareness based marketing, where you're utilizing more programmatic advertising or display advertising. You could even use search ads, but you're using them and not doing any kind of tracking, and you're using it just to get brand awareness. And I think that works sometimes for, massive companies with lots of budgets. But for me, I don't like that approach. I like more of a direct marketing approach where I'm tracking everything. And for me, as long as I'm tracking everything and I'm getting an ROI, I want to spend as much of my pay-per-click budget as possible and keep increasing the budget until I've actually hit the ceiling of the overall ROI. Until I'm not getting any ROI. But it's important to track, and I, like I said, direct marketing over brand awareness can be a game changer with building material companies.
So would you say a lot of what we're talking about seems to me falls under the category of short-term checking off the list versus long-term repurposing and moving the content beyond just basically that checklist. Would you agree?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do agree, and making sure that we're actually getting an ROI, some type of ROI from, that the pay-per-click campaign or the content that we're producing.
Would you say that there's a necessity to kind of connect everything for, I guess, to get a better idea of what that ROI is, so that it's not just PPC lives over here in its own little world and it looks great, but it has nothing to do with blog content, or it has nothing to do with social content? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think we need to make sure that we're categorizing all these things appropriately, and on a high level see how is that fitting in with the overall digital strategy. So if we're talking about like content categories and such, like, we have that SEO style content to drive in search traffic. We have attraction content, that will be utilized on, through social and our email newsletters. We have like branded storytelling and case studies that are used to, gain authority and trust and social proof on the site. We have, like sales and website copy used to convert more visitors into sales inquiries. We have lead magnets too that are used to help generate, again, more sales inquiries. We have things like universal broadcast through our email list. We have also engagement kind of sales funnel content, video content, audio content, and even guest post and PR. Like, all of those categories kind of need to work together to kind of accomplish whatever our goal is, whatever we want our digital marketing to do for us.
Would you say that most marketers, what they do is they do what they know? So they may not even consider guest posting or something like that. Well, I've never done that before. Do you see that a lot? I do what my strategy is what I'm very familiar with.
Yeah, and I think we need to explore other strategies, and I think that's where kind of getting some consultants to kind of come in to help out with certain things, because content within digital marketing as a whole, there's a lot of aspects to it, and there's a lot of people that can create great SEO content but can't necessarily create sales and copywriting. It's almost like a whole nother role, and content marketing is becoming so huge, and digital marketing becoming so huge that you can't do it all yourself. So yeah, you need to kind of explore some other content categories and bring in some industry experts to kind of help you out with that, and other consultants.
I love that. I think that's terrific, because so often we get so insular. We see we know what we like. We see everything. It looks great. It pleases the CEO. So therefore, we're doing a great job. But bringing in that consultant, I think, is very important. Which you just mentioned, just to have a fresh set of eyes to look at your content and to offer suggestions. So I really like that suggestion. So what do you think building material marketers, or what do you think, what should building product manufacturers, what should they be writing about these days?
Sure. Yeah, if I had to break it down, what is the minimal viable dose for like content marketing, and kind of like what's going to bring in the big results. And so I would break it down into those two forms of content that I mentioned. I'm going to break them down a little bit more as SEO content and attraction content. So with SEO content, I love it because what we're doing is we're utilizing data, utilizing keyword research tools to figure out what people are actively searching for. And we want to find search queries that basically that match the intent of people that are either searching for our product, or they're searching for solutions that our product can solve. right? And so if we can get more of those active searchers that are actually looking for the product or looking for solutions that our product can solve to the website, we're going to convert more of those into customers, because that's a form of inbound marketing where you're having people actively search for this stuff, right? And so I think one kind of pillar thing that we need to do is we need to create more SEO content backed up with keyword research, because a lot of times people, when they want to create SEO content, they say, oh, I know what my customers are searching for, but they actually don't do any research, any keyword research. And then, we need to make sure, and if we want to, a great thing about SEO content is that it's typically going to be our highest converting traffic source because of the active searchers, right, that are actively seeking our product out. It's typically for manufacturers, it's going to be the largest traffic source. So if you were to look at most manufacturers, Google Analytics or software that, where they're tracking traffic coming in, you'd probably see like 70-80% of that traffic, sometimes more, is coming from search engines, right? And so we need to focus on that big portion of the traffic pie if we want to drive more traffic to the site. And the next thing I love about SEO content, it's that it's free and sustainable. So you can literally write a content piece targeting a search query. Once that search query ranks, let's say, in the top 3 positions of Google search, you could leave that content piece alone, never touch it again, and it would probably still bring hundreds to maybe even thousands of visitors a month, as long as it's hanging up, at the top of the Google search results. And it's kind of like a 24/7 salesman that just kind of works for you at the top. So I think, SEO content is a must for manufacturers. And the other type of content is that attraction style content, which we discussed, which is just, valuable content. Typically, the attraction content I like to create is content that is designed to provide advice or provide, related to helping your customers grow their business, because that's what they care about. They care about growing their business. And if you can create more of that type of content and get it out to the right people on social or through your email list, you're going to see that you're going to have, more click-through rates on your emails, more open rates, and you're going to bring a lot more traffic through social. Going again, like 17 barbecue recipe tips for this summer, that's not going to do it, But if let's say you're targeting window professionals, creating an ultimate guide for digital marketing for window professionals, that's something that they're going to be interested in, because that's, they care about their business. That's their number one concern. So I think the SEO content and the attraction content together, you got a pretty, you're covering about 80% of your content basis.
I love that you mentioned doing research. Too many people, I think, get around the table, the conference room table, and saying, "Oh yeah, this is exactly what our people are searching for." Or the CEO might say, "This is what I'm searching for. Therefore, that's what our customers are searching for." So that research element, I think, is so important. I'm glad that you meant that up, or that you brought that up. I think that's fantastic. A couple of comments on your last insight there. So Camille mentions that they will keep coming back to you if they view you as the expert. So great point there. That's so true. So thanks, Camille, for engaging with us and engaging with Matt. And so not really a question, but definitely confirming what we just said. So Matt, I want to go back to something that you had mentioned there. You had mentioned that, hey, if you're still in that blog article or that blog post, whatever you want to call it, or that information that you're providing that's hanging out there like top 3 of Google, what about updating? When's it necessary? Obviously, if you see a drop, there should be some updating, but I think there are so many people out there that think, well, I have to come up with something new, and then I have to come up with something new again, and it's always this new thing. Can you speak a little bit to updating your content
Sure.
and how that helps?
Yeah, especially with SEO, you typically, with a lot of times with SEO content, you can create evergreen content that's not going to it's not going to be dated for many years, right? It's going to stay on the site. You never have to update it for, maybe 4 or 5 years later. Sometimes with SEO, you're also creating, more kind of, I would say, keyword, you're targeting keywords related to like more timely kind of search queries. Like there are people that search for like, kitchen interior design ideas for 2021, right? And so, a lot of the evergreen content, you do need to kind of keep that updated. How I would prioritize that is if you have a content piece that's generating, 3,000 visits a month or 5,000 visits a month, keep an eye on those, right? Like I said, if you're trying to figure out what's the minimal viable dose to like updating content, make sure that those content pieces that are generating a lot of traffic, if you want to continue to generate a lot of traffic with them, focus on those first. And don't worry so much about those, maybe content pieces generating like five or six visitors a month. And like I said, evergreen content, sometimes you can keep it up to date for, several, you don't need to update it for several years. Some of those, maybe those design kind of idea pieces for like 2021, you need to go back and update that next year for 2022 and make some updates. But I think there's definitely something to that, and that's all about like going back to that theme of like getting the most from your content, right? If you already have something that's performing well, keep it updated, and if something changes within the article, yeah, go update it. And that's what Google wants to see. They want to see the most relevant, most useful content at the top of search results. So that's helpful with, for that algorithm as well.
Great advice there. I really appreciate that. I hear so much about that, and I think our audience, they always think they have to reinvent the wheel with every new blog post or every new piece of content, when really sometimes it's just a matter of just updating. So great advice. Thanks, Matt. That's terrific. So let's go to more of kind of, I guess, box style. More kind of contained stuff. So what do you think about content syndication strategies like digital, basically, campaigns in a box?
Sure. Well, so, if we're talking about, content promotion essentially, and getting it out there, one of the things that I haven't seen work really well are, I would say the stuff that works typically well are not things like content syndication programs and very super scalable things. I know you want to make, the process as scalable as possible, but I think creating your own process and thinking about like where your customers are at and making sure that you are getting your content out there where they're at. So if most of your customers are on LinkedIn, for instance, that should be a primary content promotion source for you. If most of them are, on Facebook and Instagram, that needs to be in that process. We also need to think about, what can we do as far as like PR and maybe even some guest articles to kind of promote our content, maybe generate links back to our content. And we also can't forget email as well. So I think it's all about, finding where do my customers, where do they frequent, and then go fishing there and making sure that we're constantly promoting that content, within those channels, whether it's email, social, maybe a little PR, link building, maybe even within forums, like participating more in forums. If more of, you're dealing with contractors and there's a popular industry forum, not spamming the forum, but, participating there and sharing useful content there as well.
I think that's a great point. Being a real participant, not just someone that's. I think anyone, especially on LinkedIn, hey, do you want to connect? And then you get the sales pitch, and I think people can just they can read that a mile away. But if you're an active, relevant, and useful participant in the discussion, that makes a big difference. Would you agree?
Yeah, and I think so as well. And I think that's where, creating custom strategies, for instance, with LinkedIn, typically, you need to have a dedicated person on LinkedIn who can, engage with various people, get in like the actual LinkedIn groups, engage with them as well. And so you need to create a custom strategy. And how I would approach it is just create a checklist on, for this type of content. We have a checklist for how we publish it. For a regular blog post, we have a checklist for, how we publish and then promote it. So having a promotional checklist is really key, making sure that you're like hitting all the boxes and, promoting it as much as you can, your content.
What are your thoughts about iterating on that checklist based upon data? How often should we revisit this process?
That's a great, that's a great point. I think that it's really important, and that, we have a lot of data that we can go off of, right? There's Google Analytics data. We can see how much, referral traffic is coming in from which sources. We can also implement short links, using something like Bitly or some other program like that to track actual clicks on links that, that we are promoting. We also have a lot of data within, our email marketing software to see what's, open rates on certain things. So that also will help guide us on, is this content that we're promoting, is it something that our customers want to actually read. And so, yeah, that's a great point. We have to look at all of that data and then constantly iterate. I mean, if you're sharing a lot on Facebook, you're getting zero traction there. Maybe that's something that you shouldn't spend too much time on. Whereas if you're getting a lot of traction on LinkedIn, maybe that's, you put 80% of your efforts towards that.
Great advice there. I really like that. So essentially, I think I know the answer to this, but I'm still going to ask it. So is it enough just to write content on your website?
Well, I think it can be enough, right? But depending on the resources that you have, but if you want to elevate your content marketing game a little bit, there are things that you can do outside of your website. So for instance, I think a lot of us know the importance of link building, and link building is essentially the kind of art and science of influencing other websites to link to your site. And we know that plays a role within SEO. Typically, more websites that have more links pointing to them, as long as they're authoritative, relevant, kind of and relevant links, from other sites pointing to them. We know that those websites perform better with SEO. We also know that, let's say you have a product page or a blog article, and you're targeting the exact same keywords as a competitor. We know that your product page and blog article is going to rank a little bit better if we have more high quality links going to your site. So things that we can do off the site to influence, more traffic to come to the site and things like that are things like guest articles. We can create guest content, and there's a couple benefits in that. We can obviously include links back to our content and product pages from our guest articles to, for these like publishers, bloggers, even industry associations that we're writing for. We can also do more things like PR and kind of like writing thought leadership articles for publications. And that's a great way not only to drive links back to various product pages or blog articles that need help with ranking, but it's a great way to drive referral traffic and then capture and get in front of audience, someone else's audience, essentially, to drive that traffic back to our site. One pro tip that with our PR campaigns and our SEO campaigns, sometimes we hire an SEO company and a PR company, and they kind of don't talk to each other. And I recommend getting those companies or departments to talk to each other, because a lot of times PR, your PR department might get a really amazing placement on a publication, but instead of linking back to let's say the homepage, like typically they do, we might be able to, think a little bit higher level and deeper in strategy and link back to product pages and blog articles. And then lastly, there's this one kind of thing that I've been experimenting with that, I want to talk to a lot of people about offsite of the website, and that's guest emailing. And so guest emailing, what that involves is just finding publishers, maybe industry associations, bloggers that have a decent size email list and also have a relevant email list and have potential customers on that email list. And then you can often pay a minimal fee to have some of your lead magnets or your webinars or your downloadables featured on kind of a guest email drop through their newsletter. And that could be a great way, to have that offsite content that grows, sales inquiries and grow your own email list. So I do think it can be enough to publish just on your website, but if you want to kind of elevate things a little bit, there are things that you can do offsite, guest blogging, guest emailing, things like that can provide a lot of benefits in many ways.
Guest emailing. That's the golden nugget right there. That's the rewind moment, folks. If you're listening to this on the podcast, go back. I think that's fantastic. That is a great thing. And this is just something that you're started doing, you're recommending to people?
Yeah, and it's been a lot. We've had a lot of success with it, not only just generating leads, and then but there's sometimes certain clients that we work with that have really small email lists, and they want to grow that email list so they can keep remarketing. And that's an excellent way. And my thing is, when you're doing guest emailing, make sure there's a conversion strategy associated with it. You could put a case study in there, but I prefer to add some type of white paper or some type of amazing downloadable that the customers are going to really like. Like for instance, if you're a roofing manufacturer and you have a great tips for roofers and social media, that is a downloadable. That would be great to include in a guest email, like in a roofing industry association. And I see a lot of manufacturers that don't implement the conversion strategy within their guest emailing strategy, and you really need to have a conversion strategy to get the most out of that guest emailing strategy there.
Oh, that totally ties back to your first answer. We did the guest email. Check. They checked it off. It's already done. We don't have to worry about it anymore. There's no conversion strategy behind it. So it must be like, high fives around the office. This was great. It was fun. It was nice to be a part of, this whole experience with this influencer. But there's no conversion strategy behind
Right.
it.
What ROI are we actually getting from that? Right.
Yes. So it's all coming full circle. That is great advice. Again, rewind moment. Those of you that are listening to it on the podcast, listen to that again. That is a great piece of strategy. Golden nugget from Matt Lee. That was awesome. Thank you. Good stuff right there. Really good. So next question. I wanted to ask you about publishing new content. So often I've heard people say, oh, well, let's just mention this. And this is more of a social media example. Well, we just finished our fantasy football league, so let's just put that. It's a great way. We'll just communicate that. They almost kind of feel like they have to publish something every day. And so they're, you get some real low level, low hanging fruit, not good stuff. So my question to you is, how often should construction product manufacturers be publishing new content?
Yeah. So, depending on resources, obviously more content is the better, but I wouldn't sacrifice quality, just to get quantity. And so for me, if you're trying to create, again, that minimal viable kind of plan for content, this is kind of how I approach it. I would probably create at least 4 SEO style articles a month. That'll give you 1 SEO content piece a week. And over the course of a year, that's something like 48 SEO content pieces over the course of a year. And that will allow you with those 48 pieces to target, hundreds of search queries online that are relevant, right? So you're covering your SEO bases there. You're growing your your organic search traffic. You're targeting search queries. You're bringing more active searchers to the site. And then the other, another thing that I would do is add 4 additional, on a monthly basis, 4 additional attraction pieces. And what that does is that'll help you cover your bases with, making sure that you're generating enough valuable content to post at least weekly on your social media, and then that'll also give you 1 weekly email newsletter. And so, if you can do at least 4 SEO content pieces a month, 4 attraction content pieces a month, you pretty much have enough content marketing that will work with a lot of aspects of your entire digital marketing, and that'll get you about 80 to 90% there.
Okay, folks, another rewind moment there. Matt just gave you a strategy right there. He just literally just handed it to you. Do this step by step. So rewind that again. Another golden nugget. I feel like I should have like a bell or something, because you're just nailing it today, Matt. This is great. Some sort of sound effect. Be like, hey, go back and check this out. So anyway. There we go. We'll just do like a triangle. Another
awesome
golden moment from Matt. That was awesome. Good stuff. So this is a little off topic here, but in what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, what scares you the most? Is it like a Google algorithm change? Is it like Facebook, Zuckerberg going nuts? Or like, I don't know. What scares you the most in what you're doing on a day-to-day basis?
Well, what scares me the most, I think, is major website changes that we don't know about. I think that's where a lot of issues happen. So we're not always concerned. You don't really have to be always concerned about major algorithm changes, because as long as you're doing SEO kind of the right way, you're going to probably be on the more favorable end of 90% of the time of those algorithm changes. There are times, that 5 or 10% of the time where there's an algorithm change and it kind of affects things. But as long as you're doing SEO the right way, and you're following Google guidelines, you're not kind of doing anything spammy, you're typically gonna, and you have all of your on-page and technical SEO great, then you're not going to really need to worry about algorithm shifts. And actually, we look forward to algorithm shifts a lot, because our clients, they do SEO the right way. I think one of the big things, and I'm glad you bring it up, is what scares me the most is when especially as an SEO company, content marketing company, is when developers kind of work on the site without us knowing. And a lot of times what happens there is there's major technical changes that happen that kind of can wipe all the SEO work that you've done on the site away. And so I've seen that happen probably at least 3 to 5 times this month, and we see it happen a lot. We try to talk to our clients about it. And I would just say, be very careful if you're working with internal SEO department or an external SEO department. Make sure that they're really dialed in with your your web dev team, and that way, if they're making any major changes to the site, you don't lose traffic. Because I mean, I've seen it where one company has 50,000 organic searches per month. They make one technical change to the website, and now it kind of wipes all that away. And then there's a lot of work that you have to do to get that back. And I just hate to see it, because a lot of companies, SEO is their primary source for generating conversions on their site, and it can be detrimental. So that's what really scares me the most on a day-to-day.
So essentially, it sounds like when people work in silos, don't bring the rest of the team, or don't include the rest of the team in their plans. It really causes a lot of difficulty there. So collaboration.
There's one more.
Go ahead.
Yeah, there's just one more important point, because you mentioned, changes within social and how you can target individuals through ads, and that's really scary for a lot of manufacturers, because it's hard to dial in your social media advertising, and that's why I also think doing other things like SEO, SEM is helpful, because even with Facebook taking away certain targeting strategies, Google's never going to take away the ability for you to analyze the intent of a search and target that search query through SEO. And so, I think making sure that you don't have all of your eggs in one basket can like save you from a lot of worry.
Just ties right back to your first answer there. That was a great kind of topic great first answer to really set the tone for today's episode, because it's a matter of not putting everything into one particular strategy and say, hey, this is everything, but have a multifaceted strategy. Is that what you're recommending?
Yep, exactly.
Great stuff. So more of a personal question here, kind of last question here. I want to know, what is the best piece of advice? Now, you've given us a lot of great advice today, Matt. I really appreciate it. But what's the best piece of advice? Doesn't have to be business related. Best piece of advice you've ever received?
Well, I think I want to talk about business related and specifically in this industry. And I think the best piece of advice I got for this industry for content marketing that really kind of honed our strategy is from a past guest that you had on, Mark Mitchell. And when I first started out, I was creating a lot of SEO content, and that can have a really big impact on a manufacturer site with traffic and sales. But one of the things that he kind of taught me was that thought of attraction content, is that we also need to be creating content that is not only has an SEO focus and we're driving traffic through search, but also is just content that that gives our customers a reason to come back to the site and to help establish us as industry experts. And so whenever, that advice helped me, because we started implementing that within our content strategy. And what that really did was make the whole content strategy more powerful. Not only can we generate, that SEO traffic, but then we also have the traffic to generate, or we also have the content to generate social traffic and traffic from the newsletter. So that kind of helped, really complete the whole content strategy that we like to execute on. So that was a great piece of advice from Mark that I got.
Yeah, he was, like you mentioned, he was recently on our podcast. So I think it was a few episodes ago. It might be episode 6 or 7. So those of you that are interested, a lot of great advice that's out there that I spent almost an hour with him. It went very quickly, to say the least. A lot of good stuff there, as you can relate, I'm sure.
Wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, definitely a wealth of knowledge for sure. And that's why I'm seeing so many great people, and I'm asking so many great people from his summit, the Wizard Summit, to come onto this show. And so it's really been fantastic to have you on the show. Any last piece of advice or anything for our audience out there, Matt?
I think we covered it. Just making sure that you have a complete marketing or content marketing game plan will really help elevate your results, and it fits in with all forms of your other digital marketing strategies as well. And so I think we've done a good job of covering everything.
Matt, you said it. I mean, so many good pieces of advice. Like I said, I wish I had a bell there to just kind of say, hey, go back and listen to this. You gave us a strategy. You gave us some great advice and some really good insights. So, obviously you're coming off the heels of the Wizard Summit, which you did a great job for, and I knew you're going to be terrific on today's show. So thanks so much for joining us. If you have where can people reach out to you if they want to? Where do you like to hang out? Are you a Facebook guy? Are you LinkedIn? Where can people get in touch with you to talk with you a little bit more?
Sure. Yeah, you can first visit my website, leadgenerationexperts.net. Also, iwantleads.net is a great place to start, and also just connecting with me through LinkedIn. Search Matt Lee Building Materials LinkedIn and Google, and my profile will pop up.
Really, on Google, huh? So strange for an SEO expert, right?
Right.
Thanks again, Matt. You really did a fantastic job. Thanks for being here, and I look forward to seeing you on more Wizard Summits. But if nothing else, we'll certainly get together and we can talk knowledge a la Mark Mitchell and all good things building materials related.
Thanks, Will. Thanks for having me. This has been a really fun conversation. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's great to have you. Thanks, Matt. We'll talk to you later.
Take care.
All right, see ya. All right, for those of you that are with us, Matt, like I said, Matt did a great job. I want to thank Matt for joining us on today's episode. You've been listening to Content Strategies for Building Products Manufacturers. This has been Season 2, Episode 9. And before we go, just a couple of things that I want to make clear for our audience out there because, well, this was the last show in July. Just in July. Don't worry, we're going to be back in August, starting on August 3rd. And as you can see here, our programming for August 3rd is going to be new, different, and spectacular. Number one, for August, we're going to have 3 episodes. So please join us for this first of 3 on August 3rd. A lot of 3s around here, so we got some Trinity action happening here. This first episode on August 3rd is going to feature a live panel with Tim Seams, with Diana Vidal, and Michaela Arroyo. So please join us there because that's going to be new, different, and I can't wait to have all these people on one show because, well, they're fantastic people, experts in their field. It's really going to be a great episode. So please join us on August 3rd, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you don't know when we go live, well, you just got to follow us on LinkedIn because that's where Manobite likes to hang out. After that, we're going to bring onto the show on August 17th, Grant Farnsworth. He is an IU alumnus, so we got a lot to talk about there. So he and I both went to IU Bloomington, but more than that, he's an expert in his field. We can't wait to bring him onto Building Materials Marketing Unboxed. That's going to be on August 17th, so please join us then. And then on the very last day of August, I am pleased to announce that we're bringing back from Episode 2, Amy Post. That's right. She joins an elite club of people that have been repeated guests on our show. So join us for bringing back Amy Post, and I can't wait to talk with her again and just get some really great insights from Amy based on, what's been happening in almost a year. It's almost a year since she first appeared on our show. And so for manufacturers out there, for those of you that have been listening, until next time, I hope you enjoyed this episode. This was a great episode, so thank you again to Matt. Those of you that are watching live, thank you for engaging with us. Those of you that are listening sometime in the future, thank you for listening, and we hope that you like and follow us. You can see all of our socials here. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we are on Instagram, but we really like to hang out on LinkedIn. And of course, if you follow Manobite there, you'll be informed every single time that we go live. So keep that in mind as we come back in August for our special August 3 episodes. And of course, that first panel episode on August 3rd. So thank you for watching. Thank you for until next time, whenever life unboxes for you, may it be great.